Hey guys, this is Lala Legacy and welcome back to another episode of SeaBed. So, let's jump right back in. And I'm sorry, I forgot to turn down my volume again, I think, anyways. I should probably check that. No, it is perfectly fine. Anyways, let's jump right back in. So, how does that work and why? There are many theories on the subject. For example, it might not be the passage of time that makes you forget things, but rather the act of forgetting actually makes you conscious of the passage of time. Besides, there might be lots of space in your brain, but there's only so much you can think about at a given time, right? Being able to remember everything all the time might prevent your head from functioning properly. Like if I asked you what you had for dinner, and then that evoked an image of every single dinner you've ever had in your life. That'd be pretty confusing, right? I guess so. And I imagine that would also negate the feeling of wanting to eat something you haven't had in ages. Yeah, that about covers it. Takako pressed a finger against her lower lip. I shoved a hand in my pocket, realizing that I still had the glass bead she handed me earlier. I assume you can now accept that I've been researching this subject for a while now? Takako removed her finger from her lips and looked at me as though having suddenly realized something. Yeah! And you said you wanted to tell me something about my illness. To tell the truth, I came here to ask you for 2 favors. Favors? What do you mean? I want to try something on you. If it goes well, you might get cured. As long as it doesn't have anything to do with needles. Don't worry, it doesn't. It just needs a little dedication on your part, that's all. So, what do I need to do? I just want to confirm one thing before we begin. Did you get my parcel? Huh? There had to be a parcel addressed to you. A hint of recognition lit up in Takako's eyes. Are you talking about the notebook? Did you send it to me? Yes, that's the one. So you got it. Did you write it? She asked carefully. I shook my head. I know you have questions, but I myself have no idea who wrote that. I just found it at the library. Takako, having unconsciously risen from her chair in the meantime, sank back into it. I see you've already read it. Oh, whoops, I see you've already read it, sorry. It was full of episodes from Sachiko's life and my own. Things that only the 2 of us would know. Did it pique your curiosity? Of course! Do you really not know anything about it? I really don't. I just found it. I tried looking for the person it belonged to, but I couldn't find anything. I'm sorry. It didn't seem like she was ready to give up, though. Silence descended on the consultation room for a while. Is there anything else you want to know? I asked. Then, why did you send it to me? She asked after a short pause. When I gave the diary a look, I realized it contained a lot of information about you. I figured it might help you with your memories. Takako let out a sigh. I want to know exactly what it helped you remember. Takako was about to say something, but closed her mouth as she heard that. She then focused her eyes on something in the air in front of her. It was full of really old stories, so it helped me remember a lot. It was a really nostalgic read, I guess. What about the Sachiko, who seems to be narrating everything? She's my childhood friend, and the most important person in my life. To tell you the truth, I think I had forgotten how much she meant to me before I read that. I see. She seemed to have completely lost her high spirits. I didn't know whether that was because she felt disappointed I hadn't led her to Sachiko, or because she was feeling guilty for having forgotten her. Perhaps it was both. I'm sorry for asking prying questions. It's okay. I really appreciate you sending that notebook to me. I was relieved to learn that she understood its contents like she was supposed to. It didn't seem like I needed to hesitate any further. So, what did you want to ask from me? What do I need to do? I want you to treat that notebook with care and reread it from time to time. That's all? Yeah, not too hard, is it? Well then, I began tidying up the records scattered on the desk. Takako tried to help, but being unable to do much without knowing which files the papers and pictures belonged to, she soon gave up. Those weren't the tidiest records in the world to begin with, so it didn't take that long to throw them together by myself in any case. Takako gazed absent-mindedly at my hands while I stuffed a medical record previously resting on the edge of the desk into my bag. It's just an old thing of mine. I accidentally left a couple of them here, I explained as I zipped up the bag. After we left the consultation room, I locked the door behind us. I won't need this anymore, so will you return them for me? I took out the bundle of keys and handed them to Takako. Should I give them to Mayuko? Yeah. Is that your other favor? Yup. Takako gave the bundle of keys a long, hard look. Are you leaving already? I've got some other business to take care of. I'll leave after looking around this place for a bit. Want me to show you around? That's nice of you, but I want to do it alone at my pace if possible. If you say so. Well then, I waved Takako goodbye and left her behind in the corridor. I spent some time investigating the sanatorium after splitting from Takako. The nurse told me not to loiter around too much, so I decided not to go upstairs from the room I'd been shown to. At a closer look, the interior of this place slightly differed from the Fujisaka mansions. Both had a big camphor tree in the middle of the inner yard, though. I could see a roof in the distance through the branches. Wait, so this isn't the same place? I left the building through the back door in the lobby and continued down the usual stone path to the library. However, the door was locked, and I'd already handed my keys to Takako. Well, it wasn't like either Kozue or Lily would be here at any rate. I found the nurse working at the flower beds as I returned to the inner yard. It probably would have been awkward if she spotted me as I tried to inconspicuously pass by her, so I figured I might as well initiate the conversation myself. Oh? She turned to me. Have you met with Takako? Yeah. That's good. What are you doing here? I expected she'd ask that. I saw a roof in the distance from the second floor and got curious. Ah, the library. It's closed right now. I see. It's open during weekends and on holidays. You are more than welcome to drop by later if you want to see it from the inside. If I get the chance. The nurse Takako had called Mayuko made a gentle smile. Her breasts were larger than the originals. But among all the people I'd met here, she undoubtedly resembled Sachiko the most. Though her social anxiety made Sachiko show little emotion on her face, she was actually a very gentle person at heart. Those who understood that would have a hard time telling those two apart. Is something the matter? Mayuko asked. Oh, I just thought these flowers were pretty colorful for the season. Those are called primroses. They're winter flowers. Oh, I love them so much. I've never heard that name before. Is growing flowers a hobby of yours? Not really. The people at the flower shop recommended these after I told them I was looking for something colorful and easy to grow. I mean, it's kind of sad to see empty flower beds in winter, wouldn't you agree? You have a point there. Takako helped me plant these. Mayuko pointed at the flower beds that Takako likely helped her with. I see. What are your plans for the summer, though? I'll plant other flowers. I was considering morning glories this time around. Oh, that's a nostalgic name. I used to grow them back in school. Mayuko smiled. Takako said something like that too. They always remind a person of school. Yeah. Speaking of which, Takako has told me a lot about you too. Oops. This isn't Mayuko talking. Speaking of which, Takako told me a lot about you too, I said, changing the subject. Nothing too strange though, I hope. No, nothing bad. She was simply telling me about her friends here. I'm glad to hear that. The nurse made an exaggerated sigh and stood up while brushing off some of the sweat off her forehead. After a bit of small talk, I realized that the sky had begun growing orange in color. Right, I promised to make a call around this time. A call? I'm sorry, but could you let me use the phone in the lobby? You can use the one in the office. The phone we have in the lobby needs coins to operate. That's okay. It won't take long anyway. Then feel free to use whichever phone you like. Thanks. I'll go make that call now. Okay. Take care. I started toward the door leading back into the building. Before entering, I stole a final glance at Mayuko as I saw her waving me goodbye. I checked the clock as I returned to the lobby. It was 6 o'clock. I picked up the receiver and fished out a few coins from my pocket. I placed them by the phone, leaving only one in my hand. I put it into the slit on the phone and rotated the dial. Pressing the receiver against my ear, I listened to the beeping sound, waiting for Sachiko to pick up. Ooh, that's heavy. Oh, that is so heavy. Oh, chapter 9. Return. And we got an achievement called Ship. Oh, that's so pretty! Good morning, Sachi! It felt like I heard Takako's voice. I opened my eyes to see an elaborately designed ceiling. I sat up and fixed the shoulder strap of my nightgown. The sight of the Victorian sofa and the fancy chest of drawers with the plant on top had grown familiar to me before I knew it. I felt similar to how I did when I stayed at my grandparents' place for extended amounts of time. I pulled the feather-filled sheet closer to myself and inhaled a deep breath. The scent made me think of home. Nanai left for her meeting right after breakfast. I myself returned to my room to get ready for hiking. Nanai had already prepared some sandwiches for me to eat on the road, so there was little else I had to do besides getting changed. My change of clothes were a thermal underwear, a thicker jacket, a small bag, a hat, and a pair of hiking shoes I stuffed at the bottom of my suitcase. I ended up picking them because they gave me a certain kind of look, but I wasn't entirely sure of their actual practicality. I went outside as soon as I finished my preparations. The sky was crystal clear, just like Nanai predicted yesterday. I took a deep breath, letting the scent of the trees flood my nostrils. This time, I left the mansion through the front entrance. I passed by the gates next to the parking lot and paused in front of the curving mountain road. To the left stretched the wide road that Nanai drove down to the town. To the right, the road narrowed, becoming too tight for cars to pass through. Nanai told me to follow it if I wanted to go to the mountains. I took out the hiking map for beginners that was left in the lobby and continued towards the first of the marked destinations. I checked my watch to see it was 11:30. The path for the hiking course was actually better paved than the road Nanai used to drive me to the mansion. It was surprisingly flat, too. I had to climb a few stairs here and there, but there were no steep slopes like I'd been expecting. The song of birds echoed across the area. Whenever their chirping became somewhat louder, I'd pause and look for them in the tree branches or among the rocks. Thus far, I discovered a Darien redstart, a pale thrush, and a brown-eared bulbul. All of them were in the bird encyclopedia Kozue found for me. This mountain seemed to have a surprising number of birds, just like Nanai said. The scenery peeking through the thick woods was the same one I saw when Nanai drove me up to the mansion. A range of mountains and the sea, clearly visible in the distance. Besides that, I only spotted a moss-covered old temple, a relatively high waterfall hidden by the surrounding trees, a shallow river running between the rocks, and a small, ancient-looking dam. I'd spend some time looking at each new thing I discovered, and when I found none, I'd instead look for birds. Oh my goodness, my boyfriend needs to stop spamming me! Ah! I reached my destination, the observation platform, by 12 o'clock. As I climbed up to it, the scenery of the southern sea extended before me in the distance. The land here curved from the east and continued to the end of the sea. The green lands and the azure sea seemed almost like they went on forever, all the way to the very edge of the world under the already boundless blue sky. I sat down on the bench and, I found on the platform, placing my bag by my feet. I had a quick sip from the water bottle I kept in the bag's side pocket, then took out my sandwiches and began munching away on them. There was not a soul around. It might have been too early for the New Year's season, or perhaps the place was always this deserted. I honestly couldn't tell, but the fact remained that the area was completely deserted. I turned around and looked at the way I came from, but saw no traces of anyone having ascended the path behind me. I listened to the chirping of birds as I ate. A bird landed on one of the tree branches above me. It was a species I'd already spotted before. It was fun to find birds hidden in the scenery. I couldn't recognize most of them, but whenever I found one I did, it made me happy. Birdwatching might have been a much more fun hobby than I thought. I wondered if I could make out the birds better if I had one of those binoculars. And if I memorized the voices described in the book, I could probably spot and recognize way more species than I did now. I went hiking today just because I figured it'd probably be a waste not to. But it ended up being much more fun than I expected. I had no companions to talk to, so I had no choice but to entertain myself solely by observing nature, looking for more animals or interesting trees. Takako would have probably spotted a lot more things than I did, but that only meant I had more things to look forward to in the future. I inhaled a breath and rose to my feet, my body feeling somewhat heavy. It was about time to start heading home. The map's recommended route was not the same road I used to come here. Instead, it led around the mountain, emerging near the back of the library. I could feel the cool breeze on my skin. I descended the gentle slope, fighting against gravity's attempts to hasten my step. I crossed the river, careful of the moss-covered, slippery-looking stones. After a few more minutes on the path, I emerged onto a wide road. I paused there for a moment. As I took out the map from my bag to confirm the direction I should continue in, I spotted a girl walking towards me from one end of the road. It was Kozue. Hello? Hello. Are you going to the library? I asked. Kozue nodded and asked if I was planning to go somewhere. I answered that I was actually on my way back. She gave me an apprehensive look. As I was trying to understand what it meant, she passed by me. I put the map back in the bag and followed her. But that is all the time that I have for this episode, guys. So, if you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up down below. And if you haven't already, subscribe. By subscribing, you're becoming part of a legacy. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!